Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the TED in Your Head podcast. I am your host, Ted Moreno, certified clinical hypnotherapist. And for a long time, what I've been doing is helping people to overcome limiting beliefs and limiting behaviors by tapping into the power of their subconscious mind. That's what hypnotherapy is all about, tapping into the power of your subconscious mind. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, I will tell you how to get in touch with me a little bit later on after we talk about today's subject. So let's get into it. Top 10 tips to overcome fear of public speaking. Nobody is born a good public speaker. As with all fears, fear of public speaking is learned, and what is learned can be unlearned. When somebody says, I have a fear of public speaking because I'm not a good speaker, all they're really saying is, I haven't developed the skills to be an effective speaker. Being comfortable in front of a group is a skill you can learn. Now, in today's business environment, you will almost certainly be required to give reports or presentations to colleagues or clients. If so, consider learning to speak in public as a necessary part of your personal and professional development. You might also be called to give a toast at a wedding or to give a eulogy at a funeral. And it feels pretty lousy to say, no, I can't, or I don't want to, when the fact is you really should. So many people who once suffered from fear of public speaking have gone on to become very good speakers. So here's some basic things to remember. You don't have to be a master orator in order to be effective. You just need to be yourself. Don't try to think of yourself or be a public speaker. Just be someone who is willing to stand up and communicate to more than one person. Also, remember the audience is on your side, wanting you to succeed. You don't need to imagine that people are out there wanting you to fail. In fact, it's very uncomfortable for an audience to watch somebody bomb. They don't want that. What most audiences want is to see you getting up there, having fun, doing a good job, maybe cracking a joke or two and making them laugh. So remember, the audience is on your side, wanting you to succeed. It's important to remember that you don't need to memorize a lot of information. That's what notes and handouts are for. It's even easier nowadays over something like Zoom. You can share your screen, you can share a PowerPoint. So public speaking over Zoom or giving a presentation over Zoom is even easier because you kind of hide behind the PowerPoint. Also, remember it's okay to feel a little nervous. That's natural. But for most people that have a fear of public speaking, nervousness is not the problem. The problem is the fight or flight response. That would be sweaty palms, rapid heartbeat, shallow breathing, and an inability to think clearly when asked to speak to a group. In addition, there's also anticipatory anxiety. In other words, the fear of being afraid. So, anticipatory anxiety would look like, what if I get up there and I'm sweating or I'm blushing? Or what if I get up there in front of everybody and they don't like me? Or I really screw up or I really embarrass myself? Most of the time, these things aren't going to happen, but let's talk about how we can make sure that they don't happen. The good news is that you can learn to overcome the fear response and speak comfortably and effectively, and it does not have to be stressful. Of course, there's different levels of public speaking. On one end of the spectrum, you might be challenged by social anxiety disorder to the point where even talking to someone can be anxiety provoking. Now, that's a problem of a different magnitude. I've covered social anxiety in past podcasts. We'll probably revisit that soon, but we're not going to delve into the area of social anxiety disorder in this particular podcast. The fact is that most people that come to me don't have this particular challenge. They just want to be more comfortable giving professional presentations, as in a business networking situation, giving short speeches, maybe giving an occasional toast or saying a few words at a funeral, like I mentioned before. So, Here are some tips for dealing with a fear of public speaking. Number one, preparation is the key to success. Makes sense. You want to have an outline for what you're going to say. Put your notes on a 3x5 index cards that are numbered in order. Know if you're going to be standing up or sitting down at a podium, on a stage. Know if you're going to use any kind of tech like a computer or PowerPoint. If you're going to use something like this, you really need to test that stuff. Make sure that wherever you're going to speak can accommodate your tech. Have a backup plan, really important. Have a backup plan if your tech doesn't perform the way you want to or the way you want it to. Now, here's the other thing. You don't really need to, shorter speeches should be memorized. Speeches of 15 to 20 minutes, you should memorize those, but longer speeches of like maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, that's where it's okay to have notes. Not reading, that's not cool, but having notes that you can refer to, like bullet points. Number two, do a little mental preparation before you speak. Psych yourself up. See yourself doing great. Give yourself some positive suggestions using positive affirmations. Definitely, you want to challenge your negative self talk. Doesn't help to say things to yourself like, I just know I'm going to screw up, or I have so much fear of doing this. Be realistic in your expectations and show this in your language to yourself. Like, I can do this. It's only 10 minutes, or this is a great opportunity to show my stuff. So support yourself with your own positive self talk. Number three, very important, practice relaxation techniques such as deep breathing, meditation, progressive muscle relaxation, anything that can help calm your nerves before and during your presentation. So, could be as simple as deep breathing. There's so many things you can do, grounding yourself. We'll talk about that later. And that leads us to number four, practice, practice, practice. Practice saying the words out loud, not just in your mind, but out loud. Practice in front of someone you trust that can give you some gentle but honest feedback. This is one of the best ways to deal with fear of public speaking. You might also record yourself to see what vocal tics you might want to work with or eliminate, such as lots of uhs or stuff like that. Practicing in front of a mirror can be helpful, but by all means, practicing in front of somebody, a human being, is probably the best way to practice. Speaking out loud and focusing on that person. Find somebody that's going to be gentle with you. Number five, focus on your body. Stand up straight, shoulders back. You know how it's hard to be depressed when you're smiling? So, what you do with your body will impact how your brain works. So, in your practice, so that when you actually get up to give your presentation or speech, feel your feet on the floor. Center and ground yourself before you speak by focusing on your abdomen, taking a couple of deep breaths. Also, practice making eye contact. The best practice is to look into different people's faces, but if that's too hard for you, what can be helpful is looking slightly over the tops of the heads of the audience and focusing somewhere on the back of the room. Number six, don't be boring. The worst sin you can commit as a speaker is making people wish that they were someplace else. Humor is good. People want to laugh, and when they laugh, you'll feel more comfortable. Just use common sense to avoid offending your audience with jokes that are off color or politically volatile, unless, of course, you're preaching to the choir, so to speak. In other words, if your speech is a political speech to people that are on your side. Otherwise, don't even go there. Number seven, shift your perspective. Instead of focusing on your own anxiety, focus on connecting with your audience and sharing valuable information. Try to craft your message to your audience so that what you tell them has some impact on them. Think about making a contribution to your audience. Think about giving them something. Number eight, make sure you eat something. Diet and your level of anxiety are intimately related. Seems to me I talk about this in pretty much every podcast that I do about anxiety. Don't go in front of a group to speak on an empty stomach or over caffeinated. Caffeine can trigger anxiety. Low blood sugar, just to repeat myself, low blood sugar, if you haven't eaten for a long time, low blood sugar can trigger anxiety. So just make sure that you've eaten something before you're going to go and talk to a group. Number nine, joining a speaking group, such as Toastmasters, can be incredibly helpful. These groups exist specifically for people to practice public speaking in a safe and supportive environment. And there's chapters everywhere. If you go to this podcast show notes, which is basically tedmoreno.com/blog, there's a link in the podcast. You can search for a local chapter. In addition, there's a lot of instructional material out there, including books, DVDs, and audio programs, as well as online programs that can be very helpful. So definitely check those out. And number 10, get professional coaching or hypnotherapy. Remember, if you haven't done a lot of speaking in public, or if you've had bad experiences in the past, then speaking in front of people is an unknown to your subconscious mind, or it represents danger to your subconscious mind. So the idea is to make the unknowns known so that your mind feels more familiar and comfortable with what you want or need to do. Hypnotherapy is an excellent way to get that subconscious mind on board and working for you. So, as a hypnotherapist, I help people let go of anxiety and fear of public speaking that keeps them from getting ahead personally and professionally. So, reach out, request a complimentary consultation by going to tedmoreno.com/contact. Use the contact form to send me an email, and I'll get back to you within 48 hours to schedule a conversation to see what we can do to support you in speaking more effectively, powerfully, and enjoyably. Here's a quote by Mark Twain. There are two kinds of speakers, those that are nervous and those that are liars. Remember, you can read this podcast as a blog post, tedmoreno.com/blog, and you can also watch this podcast on YouTube at Ted A. Moreno. Thanks so much for listening. Have a wonderful day, and we will talk soon. Bye.